Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nuestra Tabula Rasa. And hello, Millie and Victor and Lucky. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Doing great.
Excellent. And
Only water bottles.
Getting comfortable.
uh, how's the chat doing? Who do we see over here? Richard and Scotty and Linda Jean, Christine, Diana, Deb. Oh, there's Lucky
Yes, I'm right
playing
here.
with his light. Yep, over there. Kim.
Big crowd
Who
here
set the
tonight.
background? Do you mean the thumbnail, Scotty? If you mean the thumbnail, yes, I did that. I'm quite proud.
That is really cool.
I like it.
Oh dear, nothing controversial about tonight's topic, Karen says. Well, it just depends on what we decide and where the chips fall. Maybe we'll be like, yay, government. You never
Yay,
know.
government. I love Thank you,
And
government.
Sarah.
I
Awesome.
think there's only an hour, and how much can we really delve into this? It's like, but I think it's a
I
good
know.
foundation.
I
You
do
know,
these episodes that end up as like an hour and 45 minutes if we can, if Victor's agreeable.
that's really late. I'm
That
happy to
was.
stay up. I'm happy the East Coast stays up so late for us. I appreciate it, and I
Yeah.
know we have a huge replay gang. So thank you, replay gang, because I see
Hmm.
those numbers go up the following morning, and I am very appreciative that you guys tune in every week while I don't know you're having a breakfast or your coffee in the morning and you watch. So thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry about my audio, Scotty. I don't know what I can do because this is the only thing that works, and I apologize. It was $20. I don't know. I needed something that wasn't radiating my brain.
Oh, because the other one was super overhead.
Well, and even the Bluetooth one now doesn't cooperate with my phone for live streams. It's fine for like calls and listening to whatever, but it does not like live streams for some reason. I don't know. I'm just full of tech difficulties, apparently.
We got it.
So,
We're here.
yeah. Alrighty.
She's not on a computer, Deb. She's on her telephone. So that's
Her telephone.
her cell phone, her mobile
Yes, because
phone.
my computer freezes and my phone has its own issues. So, yay. Yeah. So here we are, and tonight we're talking about authority. Do we need government or religion? And outside sources of authority. So, yeah, I have a lot of information here, so we'll just pluck away at it and see what happens. So I think one of the first things that we can kind of just look at and consider is, do you think that morality is something that we're taught, or is it innate, and why? Millie?
Morality. Okay.
Nope.
Hmm.
Unless, or is Victor
Vic-
ready?
No,
I
go
was gonna
ahead,
say
Millie.
Victor.
The most moral person should go first, and that's Millie.
That's right.
Oh, is that
The
it?
most what kind of the most what kind of person? Oh, moral
Moral.
person.
You know, I think that you are born with a certain amount of good in you already. Um, that's just yours, and if you saw nobody, you would have that. But a lot of it is learned from your parents, who are your first role models, and then your community. So I think that you could probably right, what to do, the good and the bad, and what's wrong and right from them. So having the law tell you something that should be obvious already is kind of redundant. But I guess there's some people that are rule breakers and they have a problem with authority. And hey, I have a problem with authority sometimes, so I get it. But it's kind of redundant. You know better, and you know when you're not doing something that's right because you can feel it in your gut. You have your own moral compass that tells you it's wrong.
Anyone else?
Yes. Whether or not probably the U.S. government did it, but
Oh,
I
you're
don't.
kind of
Well,
you're
We're all
muffled.
having.
give it a
Wait,
second.
yeah, I think now he should be better. Okay, go ahead, talk.
Yep.
That
That you're good.
all right. It's working now. I think the U.S. government did some experiments at one time where they kept kids all locked up, essentially away from their parents and things like that. And I think that kids did develop a more morality to help one another. I think they were instinctively helping one another without any outside influence and being told that they needed to help one another. So I think it is ingrained in us on some level. I think it's, I would say, I would lean towards, of course, we're going to learn it, like Millie, to Millie's point, that we learn it from our parents and people around us. But, oh, wow, geez, bless you. But the thing is that I think that I think we're little sponges in that regard. I think it's more learned out of us than it is. I think it's more taken that's learned out of us as we grow up instead of something that is learned in a sense. I think it's learned out of us by our parents because if you have a bad parent, you see so much of it nowadays. These kids getting in trouble, doing heinous crimes because they're spoiled because they grew up without you know without any real role models other than their other friends that are learning right now.
Or their role models were not good ones.
Right.
There's that
Yeah.
too.
So,
Anything to add, Lucky? Oh, if you were done. Sorry, Victor.
oh yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think morality is genetic and inherent in us, but society, you know, breeds us, knocks it out of us just by who we associate with, and unfortunately, sometimes it is the parents. Some parents are not as moral as others, and I'll just leave it at that. Some of the stuff my parents used to get into, I wouldn't agree with, and that used to cause me a little bit of struggle with my parents. But I was also a different mindset. I might be mentally deficient in some ways, which causes me to be direct, while some people feel there's a nuance to being more moral. Um, Especially my family, there were nuances to being. Morality was a gray area with my family, and I never saw it that way. I saw it black and white. I think that's where it is. It's just that we draw the line, and it can move back and forth depending on, I deserve this rather than, well, that's just wrong.
And
Yeah, yeah.
can I add something to the morality thing
Of
too?
course.
Is a lot of people learn their morality. Well, you think in our lifetimes, all of us are pretty. We've been around a few four plus decades in many cases, and think about how it's changed. At least in the United States, now the prison systems are a business. Okay, now their
Yeah.
prison systems are a business, and if it's a business, then there's going to be somebody in the food chain getting a big, humongous kickback for how many people they can put in that system from the
Mhm.
government. So they're going to sit and grift and grift that taxpayer money. So, but then look at the other side. You have one side putting out popular culture that is garbage, and these people absorbing it, and they're basically making moral gateways straight for prison. So think about it from that point of view. Is morality is not only given by your parents or you receive it or your ideal of it or from church or from whomever, but where you spend a lot of kids will spend a lot of their time observing social media, and what are they getting? Garbage,
Mhm.
garbage, garbage. Hey, go be a thug because that's the way it's the popular thing to be, or go rob stores because that's quick money, and stuff like that. And it's just and then you have on the other side of it, it's then okay. So now you get into this whole thing about our death care system and big food in the United States. Big food, make it as toxic as possible and as cheaply as possible, so you can make more money off of it. Be greedy about it, of course, but then we will make sure that these additives are in this specific popular food, and then we'll have our buddies over on the other side of it, on the pharmaceutical side. Well, we'll rub each other's backs on that whole process and work something out. So we make sure that we're making them sick on one side, and then here's the cure or the treatment on the other. And we see it. We've seen
And
it. Go ahead.
and not only that, but in prisons and schools where they actually feed the people healthy food, they have much better behavior. So there's that too. And we wonder why we act out. Well, if everybody's eating stuff that makes them teed up and angry and whatever, then what else is going to happen? So yeah, I definitely think it's a bit of both that I mean, we're taught from our parents, but yeah, not all parents have the same level of morality, and not all morals match laws either, right? There's a lot of things that are both, according to some people, that are going to be immoral, that are legal, or that are illegal, but we think are still moral, right?
Hmm.
I gotta,
Mm.
And I think it also depends on like where you grow up too, and what your surroundings are,
hmm
like cultural, socioeconomic. So there are different things
yeah,
that like maybe people that are not as affluent would do for survival that, they see as justified, whereas if you were in a more affluent area, there's no need for that.
yeah, 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 for sure. And yes, Misha, I know my mic is scratchy. I'm sorry. It just sucks, and we just have to put up with it.
And that's not saying that it's right. That's just saying
Yeah,
that it becomes something that you are desensitized to.
yeah. And there are schools of thought that say that people don't do the vast majority, like, and I mean, this is of course people with perhaps you know issues that are not addressed in other ways, but that people don't do things that they think is like that they think are wrong. They will always have a justification.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not so black and white, but a majority of the time,
Yeah.
it's a pretty legit kind of assumption.
Hmm.
Honestly, yeah, I think that's a good point. Unless you're a sociopath, you have to justify your actions. Well, a
hmm
sociopath, no, they don't need anything.
Yeah, yeah,
They just do
yeah.
what they want. And that's, I mean, I've met some upstanding citizens as sociopaths because they knew behavioral what was the right thing to do, and they wanted to follow society. But they were still a sociopath, and they admitted, yeah, I don't have a moral
Yeah,
compass,
yeah.
but I learned it. And I thank you, Mr. Rogers, which is what I was thinking too, is that I grew up on Mr. Rogers, and my mother hated him. She found him absolutely just unbelievably and couldn't understand why I liked watching him. But I believe he was a moral compass. I thought he taught a lot of young
hmm
children how to behave. He did so much, and I even now I can watch him and say, yeah, I can understand why some people who don't have a moral compass might find him a little bit troublesome to deal with. But yeah, that he was definitely a sociopath. He admitted to
hmm
it. He went to a psychiatrist and he said that Mr. Rogers taught him how to properly act because he didn't have it in his head to know what to do.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Really nice guy, but really, if he didn't think about it, he did some pretty terrible things. And he couldn't drink because he would just be total. Well, he was bad guy when he drank. Let's just say that because the moral compass was learned and it would just go off, turn off.
Yeah. Okay. So now, I mean, there must be a reason we have government and religion, right? Um, yes, that is interesting. So, arguments in favor of government, well, they maintain order in large populations, they protect people, they create, communicate, and enforce structure and expectations. And historically, we saw it as necessary when survival was a little more tenuous than it is now. But what happens without that structure? So if we didn't have that structure holding things up, what do you think would happen?
Oh,
And
I'll
not
go.
okay. So let's approach it. Okay, no, go ahead, Victor.
No, let me hear your approach.
Yeah.
Um, if let's approach it from not if we lost what we have now, but just in a general sense, if it didn't exist.
Well, I think I like to look back at look back at Aboriginal tribes. Look at First Nation tribes. Look at Native Americans. I'm a member of two tribes, so I've pretty well versed in this stuff. But it's how did it operate? Very simply, there was just basic rules. Basic rules. The chief, was the leader, and that was typically because of either bravery or because of wisdom. I don't think most chiefs were young bucks. Okay, they were typically, and I don't think it was always. You even had your council of wise women that would advise the chief too. So it wasn't just male dominated in a sense, because they respected their women and guarded their women and revered them, and so and protected them. And even like when we do the sacred path cards on Friday nights, what's one of those things say that when you have abundance, that you protect the elderly, you protect this, you protect that, and it's your moral responsibility to protect those that can't protect themselves. And that system worked. It worked. Okay. And sometimes they would go to war with other tribes, but that would be a breakdown in it. But I don't think it's nearly as necessary as it is. I don't think it's as big, because so it's kind of like when you reach that critical mass, what do you end up doing? You start warring with your neighbors when that government gains so much authority and so much power over people's lives. What has it done? It's kept us in all these conflicts for the last 500 years, the last 1,000 years. People, hey, you need to think the way I think because of this. I mean, we used to fight, and think about it. To this day, the last 1,000 years on the planet, we still kill each other for religion. Still, religions that purport peace, and we're still killing one another for it. Right.
Wild.
And oil, but Anyone else?
I'm sitting here trying to think, like, so if we didn't have police or something, like what would be the first breakdown that I would see happening? I'm thinking like speeding and things like that, the things that like people do, like, they move fast, so they probably would like drive faster and stuff. But I'm trying to think of like, but I guess it depends on where you are to see, and it could, maybe if you were a business owner, if then, but I don't know enough about it to see where the highest crime is, to say, oh, that wouldn't be taken care of if we did this instead. So like Victor said, that the older people, like I'm thinking like the Neanderthals, like if you look back at how we evolved, there was always some kind of party in charge, but not like elected, and not I think to that level. It was just it was almost like family, right? So family, you listen to mom and dad, so it's, you have that natural order, so to speak.
Lucky?
Go ahead, Lucky.
No, it's just society is a weird thing. I'm thinking about, one of the earliest, what we consider democracy, with Greece. But there was no democracy. It was the rich who voted. The democracy was only of the wealthy. And the real true democracy was the Persians, but we don't hear anything about that because the Persians were the bad guys for the Greeks. But if you really look into it, the truth is the Persians had a much more open society. The Spartans were considered, a better culture than the Persians. No, the Spartans are horrible. It was a small group of people who could, once a year, the Spartans could murder the Helots, who were the local indigenous people. So there were like two groups of people who lived there. And the Persians was an open society where you could raise up by your abilities. So our history is messed up. So you're talking about what would happen if we lost the police and the fire and the government? The rich would take over and just abuse the hell out of us. And how would they stay in power? They would pay off enough of the armed people. So what would happen would basically be the poor against the rich, and eventually there'd be some kind of where the rich would have to find a way of protecting themselves from us, and that would be through money. So money would be the ruling thing.
But don't you
So
think that
you're
that kind
going,
of happens now? Like with like what with
thank you.
sponsors and you know, like because
Sponsors.
yeah, and all that kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah,
I feel like they're getting contributions uh, every day
yeah, yeah, I would agree.
to some extent, you know, but it's not looked at as a payoff, so to speak. It's just looked at as a contribution.
Oh, you mean how the rich run the government and how the real people that we don't elect the real rulers, they're just the rich. Oh yeah, no, I understand that.
No,
But
even the
again,
police department and things like
But
that, you know?
but once you take
the rich
away,
just,
we're talking about no government at all.
Hmm.
Would it change? Probably not, because the rich want to protect themselves from us. So they would put something in place. If there was very few people, it'd be a lot easier. But since there are so many people, and there are so many people with lots of money, I don't think anything would change. You take away the government, it would just switch around. They make us scared. Oh, it's going to fall. The government falls. They just establish a new thing. So I don't think so. I'm not worried
and
about
that's
anything.
why these are two very different questions, right? So what if it never existed at all, and what if we were to lose it, right? So they are very different ideas, because if we didn't have big government and if we didn't live in large countries and we're in those small communities, just like, was it Karen Suki that had the Greg Braden says 250 people is the, what was that quote you just put up? The 250 people is the ideal size. And I would agree with that. Like, I don't know the numbers, but it's once we get into living as these large communities, large centers where we don't have that sense of community, where that responsibility to each other breaks down. And then we seem to think we need, someone bigger and meaner and with, weapons to protect us from each other. And then, it all kind of ends up going off the rails eventually.
No,
Thoughts? Yes? Go.
now, now, see, if we're going to get rid, if we say can government go away, see, this is where I have a very large opinion on, because everyone here, I would venture to say 90% of the people that are here tonight, I know all of you have had awakenings, and someone asked about it earlier. Diana did. Have people had spiritual awakenings? And I know all of us have, because I've heard your stories. But I think that when so many people kind of you kind of start having that awakening and seeing through all the nonsense like we're seeing now. So much stuff is falling apart. We're seeing how things were artificial or it doesn't even exist, or how these organizations existed because they were grifting from the government, and all this stuff, at least in the United States, is coming out. And it's like so much of it is fake, and now they're questioning our elections and all these things like that. So you're starting to wonder, well, what government seems to be more subjective than it is supportive. Meaning you're more of a subject than you are a member of the country. You're more of a subject of it, and really, I think that our governments globally have gotten so large that they're really outlived their usefulness now. And I think as people are coming into the light, as people are understanding, broadening their understanding of things, I think government at its current size could be far, far less, because when people start evolving, all right, when people start evolving, they're going to need less and less government. You're going to need less police officers. And if technology evolves with us, you're going to need less social services, especially medical stuff, and all these other things start to fall to the wayside in a sense, especially when people start seeing the truth in everything. Because what's the point of having somebody? It's like I had an experience, it's like I don't have any enemies out there. Because if I am somebody's enemy, eventually they won't have anything to fight. I don't have to fight any wars or any battles. Because it's like people that say, "Oh, well, the CIA runs the planet." Well, eventually, people are going to stop listening to them. They're not going to have anybody to make war with, because everybody's going to be enlightened enough that they can't recruit anybody. Even people within that organization would start falling out because, I don't believe this. This is why are we doing this? Why are we going and messing with that country? They're doing fine. I think as people collectively start to rise in their ability, in their awakening, then all these little things that kept us at each other's throats are going to fall by the wayside. And yes, that's my rose-colored view of it. But I just think about it logically. Think about where you've gone, where you guys have gone in the last 2 years with your journeys. I'm thinking about how you've changed. Not just the last 2 years, last 5 years, last 10 years, however long you've been on the path. Awesome. Awesome, Lucky.
Beautiful. Look at that. I like them. Very nice.
I'm part of a sleep study because I work nights and my sleep is terrible. Well, they said, "Oh, we'll pay you to do this," and I have to log my sleep. Oh no, I'm logging my sleep so they know everything. But part of it was they gave me these glasses, and my I get a notification telling me you got to put on your red glasses before you go to bed now. Um, and I'm like, what? But I said, will they fit over my glasses? We'll get you one that'll fit over your glasses. And it's horrible to read, but I guess that's the point. I can't read with them, so I have to stop doing stuff and just actually, prepare for bed. But
Huh.
yeah, I have rose-colored glasses, yes, to help me sleep.
Beautiful.
But you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. The problem is that power corrupts, and in groups of small enough people, everyone will pull their weight. But if a big enough group, people start saying, "Well, they're not pulling their weight. Why should I?" And then that's when things break down, when people feel being taken advantage of, whether they are or not. But if it's a small enough group, everyone who pulls their weight, we work together. It's harmonious. But once you get too big, then people feel resented. People, resent other people, and then everything falls apart. That's why communism is a great idea on paper, but when you make it a big company, once a country takes over and is communists, then things fall apart, and that's when everyone becomes corrupt. And even though the leader is supposed to be, the great leader, they're corrupt. That's the only way to be a leader is to be corrupt. So it's sad.
In the system we have now, I don't think that has to be a thing. I think that's how it's turned out. But
So you
I,
believe
I
big government can work?
no, I don't believe. No, that's the problem. Is the big government part. Like if it's if we're because when you live in the smaller communities, you're naturally going to know other people. You're going to care about other people. And if you see someone who can't pull their weight that day, instead of being resentful, you're going to go, I see that you're struggling, and you're going to be more supportive because you care about them. And then they're going to be able to, make up for that on another day. And if they're, differently abled or whatever, and can't do the exact same that everybody else does, there's something that they're going to contribute, right? We all have our strengths, and we can use those strengths instead of saying that the only thing that matters is how much money you make and that you're doing this and this because these are the acceptable paths that get you a good reputation, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, were you going to say something? No. Okay. uh, da, da, da. So do you think that people for the most part behave ethically because they're evolved or because of the repercussions?
What?
Say that one more time, please.
Do you think that people sorry, do you think that people behave ethically um, because we're evolved, or they, or because there are repercussions if they don't? Sorry, I missed part of that.
I think it's kind of both. I think it's a little bit of both because the repercussion, I just use myself. I do it because it feels good to do the right thing. As far as I'm concerned, it feels good. And that way you're never looking over your shoulder. But then if you get, say you have some road rage with someone. So, because that's universal. Everyone probably here that drives has been invited in that road rage incident. Because I had some guy bird dogging me. This was probably 5 years ago in my journey. And I was driving south on one of the highways. And he was like zooming in and out of stuff. And then he gets right up on my butt. And I was overtaking at a normal pace, the car next to me. And then gets up on honk, 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 and he goes by me like that, and I was just like, I did this to him, and then he zooms past me and then slows down and hey, and just fingered me up and down. I was like, and I put just like that, and he was like, "Ugh," and then zoomed on. Let's see, that's what you feed those people, and that may be the thing that maybe 10 miles down the road he stops, calms down, okay. He goes, oh man, I was such a dick to that guy, and he was so sweet to me. It's like, and
Is
it's
that how
like,
it ends in your head? Because I've seen other ways it ends. And not in just my head. I've just seen other ways it ends, and I'm like, ooh, karma's a bitch.
yeah. And really, the appropriate action, of course, is to just let them go and just don't interact with them
Well,
at all
yeah, go to the right. Go to the
because they're
right.
on
Go
their
ahead.
way to their accident, and you don't want to
Yeah,
be in the way of that.
but that's when you're in your higher self, and I fall into my lower self a lot when I'm driving, and I have learned that rather than using the middle finger, the thumbs down is a lot of power.
Oh,
It's messed up because you're not you're just like, oh, I just approve what you're doing, but it's really not insulting as much as it's I'm disappointed in you. And if someone said it to me, I
Oh,
laugh and go, you know what, that's what I'm going to use, and it is so empowering where I want to flip someone off. I'm like, no, that's not the way to do, that is mean, but I can't stop it, so I got to do something. And the thumbs down, it's just the most silly, innocuous thing, but it
That's
gets
funny.
my rage out in some weird, jokey way.
start shaking your finger at him.
You need some kind of hand gesture. So.
It's so funny because the thumbs down is. I mean, YouTube took it off for a long. Well, yeah, it's back again, but you can't see it. But again, it is. But it's not really curse. It's more of I'm. This just doesn't work for me, And it just the person can't be mad, and it might trigger them to go, oh boy, and they might laugh it off, or they might think to themselves, wait, I disappointed somebody today. I don't know. But it for me, it's empowering, and also it's kind of silly, and lets me vent, which is what I really need when I'm road raging. I need to vent. I love the thumbs down. It is my favorite thing. My wife says, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm not
That's
giving him a
funny.
finger. Yeah. Oh, my wife thinks it's just stop. Just stop. Just keep your fingers on the hand. Just keep your fingers on the wheel.
I think that some of that comes down to what part. I think every town, every city has road rage. People road rage, but
Hmm.
really, in places that have open carry, is probably not the place to do it because an
Oh,
armed society is typically a polite society, and that's one thing that there's a benefit of because if you're packing heat, the last thing you want to do is get in any kind of altercation with anyone if you have a weapon in your car or on you or something like that. So that's something to keep in mind too. And that comes, hey, can I share a government story, a government success story, real quick?
Ooh,
I mentioned it on
Sure.
of
Truthwave
course.
tonight, and that was the government of Scotland that let those beavers come back into their area. And it was a success because the government got out of the way. They got involved at first, and then they kind of got out of the way.
mhm.
So in a sense, by them not being part of it, it made the whole process easier. So, and I kind of look at it that way that so that was a success, but ironically, it was the government getting out of the way and devolving, de-involving themselves that actually caused it to be successful. So, yeah.
Yay,
Hmm.
Norwegian Weaver. That's cool.
My government success story was that when I went for my appointment with EI this week, I only waited for 5 minutes and she was all apologetic that I had to wait. And I was like,
Wow.
really? Like, I phoned my internet provider and I'm on hold for like 2 hours, and I phone you guys and I'm not, and I'm floored, just absolutely floored. Anyway,
And she meant
Well,
it,
that's kind
right?
of cool.
She was
oh, she
nice.
was so sweet. She was so sweet. I just loved her to pieces. Yeah.
Well,
That's nice.
the Canadian jokes I shared the other night with you and Linda
Hmm.
Jean did cover
Hmm.
something about Canadians apologizing to one another. But that's a really good trait to have as a national. I mean, think about it. That's an awesome trait for a country to have, for the people of a country to have about being
If you
apologetic.
mean it. I mean, if
Huh?
you mean it, though.
I do
Like, I
mean it.
think that, no, 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 not you. I mean,
Oh,
like, if people who are being polite are meaning it, or Or are we just saying it because it's habit,
which is
which
what I think.
Oh,
happens, right? Like when I opened the door for that gentleman a little while, well, it was a couple of years ago now. I opened the door and he said thank you, and I said thank you, and then I was like, why am I thanking him for going through the door that I opened for him?
Maybe
That's
you're
weird,
thanking
Trista.
him for thanking you,
Maybe I mean, probably not, or I should be conscious of it.
right? Because I mean, I know that there's been times when I'm like, oh, hold on, and I go ahead and I do something. And now, I mean, I don't care, but sometimes you get people that walk right by you and it's like they're entitled and you're like, I don't know, not that I expect, just acknowledge me or something. I don't know. So I think that maybe thank you for thanking you.
So
So buttons.
so now let's say that we don't have a government.
We don't have
How
government.
how should we, nicely played, how should we deal with those who stray from common morality? And I'm not talking about like, because there's the laws that are just superfluous laws that are like, why is this even a thing? And then there's laws that make sense, like don't kill each other kind of thing, right? So if we didn't have government and didn't have, that kind of authority controlling everything, then how would you suggest we deal with people who don't follow the accepted social rules?
Well, I think the idea, I don't know, were we kind of getting at that we should just trim the fat with the government, but there has to be some kind of government?
Well, I mean, I don't think that we've decided that fully just yet. I mean, this is kind of just a theoretical, like what do you feel, how do you feel that we could address stuff like that if we didn't have that?
I think it would depend on how the person got caught and who caught the person. What, you know what I mean? And what they did.
Yeah. What's the offense and what's the value and how much is this person put out when if the offense is taking someone's livelihood, then that's pretty serious. That's why Hammurabi's code was made put a put a code put a value to each offense and to figure out what would that value mean. So you'd have to basically just decide what that offense is in value and decide how much this person needs to repay it. They'd have to repay it.
so in a sense, we would live by a code. So the code would be, and it would be kind of a universal code, maybe. A code would be like Hammurabi's code.
Hmm.
Hammurabi?
Close enough. I don't know.
Hammurabi. Yeah. Okay. So
It's a
that
long
code.
time ago, so who knows how it's really said, spoken.
Yeah, that's the first time I read it. It was a long time. First time I learned it way back. Okay. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe the answer is a code. Maybe the answer is a code that you have a code of conduct and you learn that in school and you grow up with that code of conduct. And it doesn't even need to necessarily be religious in base, but a lot of religions do have some good things, like the Ten Commandments are pretty straightforward about don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be tied in a religious manner, but maybe teach kids, hey, teach kids this code of conduct. And then have the existing adults who did not learn it learn it. And you just change it. You just change the way things happen. And especially, you guys have heard my technology rant. If any technology that comes out that's going to make things a lot different, because Elon Musk was even talking about technology coming out and making our lives and basically taking every job out there. But there'll
Hmm.
be so much money. There'll be so much money that people have so much money because they're freed. And it's not from, grinding or chasing their bag or any of this stuff or working 6 jobs. No, it's none of that. None of this greedy capitalist stuff. I'm not an anti-capitalist, by the way. Makes it sound like I am, but I was one for a very long time. And but where I'm going with this is that when people are flush with money and things get cheaper, then your crime is probably going to start dropping off because there's less people that need to have any reason to do any crime because they can go get everything they could possibly ever want and have plenty of money to do it, unless they're just straight up greedy or something and need to have all the money on the planet or something like that. But then once again, are any of you likely to sign up for my cause? Let's go. Hey, come put your butts on the line to potentially get you thrown in prison, to go do something to get you potentially thrown in prison just so we can make an extra $20 this month. Or let's go do a heist so we can make however much money.
Okay, but what if the crime isn't
Join
so
you.
much of a crime to make money or thievery? What if it's some kind of deviance?
I think
What?
then the hand should be firm
Mm-hmm.
and swift.
Mm-hmm.
So by deviance, what are you meaning?
Like a sexually deviant
Oh,
thing that,
okay.
Oh,
so it's
execution
for the
right
I think
away.
there
intention.
would be, I honestly think there would be so much less of that in a healthy society. Like if we deal with things in a healthy way. So what made me think of this question, I don't know if you guys remember, like a long time ago, probably, I think it was like probably 2012, there was a thing going around Facebook that was like about Ubuntu. So in some cultures, what they do when someone deviates from the norm and isn't following those social rules, they sit them in a circle and they tell them what they love about them. And they go through, they talk it through. So there's no, throwing them away from everybody. Because how does that heal a person? If you take someone and isolate them, do you think you're going to take them out of there and they're going to be a functional member of society? Like, how, I don't understand how we think that jail works for anything like that. That's why it's a revolving door. There's no actual rehabilitation that takes
Well, it's not
place.
designed to be.
There's exactly. And I mean, even here, because here it's not a business, and we are a little bit better that way, I feel, but still, yeah. So I feel like to create change, we really have to start with integrating that kind of thing with the the aspects that we have control over, right? Like, I mean, of course, there is still government looming over us, but we really need that kind of functional healing instead of taking people and just throwing them away.
Well, swift justice is not necessarily throwing people away. But if somebody's a murderer, maybe it's eye for an eye instead of giving that person another chance. Somewhere there's going to have to be in that code, the Hammurabi code. There's going to have to be a line that can't be crossed. And if you cross that, and nowadays we're all on video so often throughout our days, we're recorded so often that if there's distinct video evidence that you walked up and stuck a knife in that person, maybe that's what
But
it
then
comes to.
why? Yeah, so then why did they do that, right? So that's where there would have to be some sort of communication about it. Like what was going through your mind when you did this? Well, I saw that person do this to somebody else or something, like where there is that again that people don't do things that they think is wrong. So perhaps mental illness is going to exist probably even, in a healthy society. So there's that aspect. But then do we take mentally ill people and go an eye for an eye and go, well, we're going to kill you now because you don't know any better?
It's good food for thought.
And I mean, I
Um,
don't know. I don't know what I think on that either.
I, I have a problem with that because if we have a right society, we'll have the right food, so mentally ill people will have a better vehicle, so they will be less likely
It'll be
to
less.
act.
It absolutely be less. I do believe it would be less. I don't think it would be none. Because
Then
there are
they
things
have to
that
be a
go on
member
in
of
brains
society.
that
Then they can't function in society. They'd have to be taken out of society because they can't be a functioning member of society. That's it. If you can't be a member of society, you've got to protect the rest of society. So if a
I think
mentally ill
that's
person can't fall into place, they're going to be taken out of society. It's simple.
but is it that they can't fall into place, or that we would have to work with them a little more one-on-one to help them to fall into place?
If
I
they
think it depends. It
if they were if
depends.
The
But
problem
I
you're saying
think
is
that
if they act out, then there's a level, there's steps. They wouldn't go from
Mhm.
zero to murder someone. They would be doing anything. They would be, and if you can't stop them from hurting other either animals or people, there's a point where you just say this person can't be rehabilitated and they got removed from society.
And maybe that's that when this big shift that we're all expecting, we've been talking about for months. I know this is a 3D topic we're kind of talking about, but
Oh yeah.
what if there's something like the upside down? And what if the solution is you just go and put them in the upside down? If they can't function in society, that way they can still live. There's food drops that would be kind of like a video game. There's food drops that happen occasionally so that people still get fed and this and that, and actually have things, ways for them to live under there, but they live down there with everybody else that can't function in society. I don't know. I don't know.
that sounds like what they did on the 100, and it was just awful. Was it the
Yeah.
100?
Yeah. Oh, the 100.
And
Oh,
oh,
see,
and there was an episode of Stargate with that as well. Yeah.
Or maybe the shift, maybe in a year or something after the shift, we'll be having this conversation on our holographic show that we do, and
and
we'll be
there'd be
talking,
med
and we'll be
beds,
like,
and everyone would be tweaked, and there would be no mental illness at all.
"That's right. Ooh, that's right. Ooh, so maybe that's a solution too."
And then
Oh,
we don't have to get rid of them.
I do
'Cause-
think that the way society runs itself just feeds mental illness in the worst way. And I really do think that the vast majority of people would be able to be rehabilitated if they were treated properly and treated properly in a real way, not with just drugs. I mean, give them fish oil and, give them the good nutrients that are going to build their brains and give them that support. But I think yeah, most would have a much better chance than they do right now because there's just such chaos in the ether that it's hard if you don't have the proper filters to really maintain that balance.
And I learned something from a wonderful lady named Brooke Castillo, and she is a life coach. That's like her thing. She's a brilliant lady, and she has these nice podcasts that are so. I mean, you can turn them on throughout your day. Nice to listen to. But she said, love the criminal, hate the crime, dislike the crime," and that's one of the best exercises any person that's on the path can do. That is one of the best ones because it's hard. Because it is freaking hard to still have the compassion and love for that criminal after they've done some of the most heinous of things.
What's
And
funny is my very Christian coworker said that to me when I was like, I appreciate that you don't judge me for our religious differences. And that's what he said. And I was like, I don't know how to take that, but okay.
That was good.
yeah, it is good. But think about it from an exercise, though. You could pick somebody out of the news
Mhm.
right now or pick somebody and just find it in yourself to send them love. And that's a huge,
Mhm.
huge exercise for yourself.
It's kind of like the
Yep.
whole Ponopono, right?
The what?
The whole Ponopono, that Hawaiian
Mm.
thing,
Oh,
just that with that whole forgiveness, right? What is it? I love you. Please forgive me.
I'm sorry.
Or, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
And
I love.
thank you's
There
in there.
Thank you. I'm
there
sorry.
you
Yes,
go.
yes. I have actually dog tags with that written on them.
Oh, that's good. I have it written on one of my notebooks here. I thought it was one. But yeah, just if you say that's powerful, I'm gonna tell you, even if you just listen to it all night, but if you just say that a long time, that'll help you work some stuff
Yeah,
out.
if you believe it in yourself, because that's another thing. It goes with self.
Hmm.
It goes with self healing, and that's an important thing. Is that a lot of people with mental illness don't have any self healing. We're so focused on getting them into,
Mhm.
me hypocrite. I'm talking about getting into society when really they need to learn how to love themselves in order to be a functioning member of society. And that's kind of backwards where we think about how to get them to fit, when it really goes to how to get them to appreciate themselves and not need to lash out.
And that's where I think that, a healthier society will feed that and will support people in that. And it'll just be basic. So do you feel that unity, a sense of unity, is something that is felt innately or is imposed on us through whoever, family, society, religion?
For myself, it was a me thing because I didn't look at anyone any different. So I think it depends on what your view is of your
Hmm.
fellow person.
I don't understand the
Do you feel
question.
like that's
No,
so?
I know it's simple. I think it's simple, but my brain is going
Yeah.
wide out. So you're saying unity, is it learned to be part of society, or is it inherent in us to unite with others?
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to
Yeah.
say?
Or to feel unity with others. Is that a natural feeling or is it something that we learn from religion or spiritual practices or family?
For me personally, it's a learned, because I have no interest in anyone else, because I found everyone is disappoints me. And as a child, it was from a
Hmm.
child. My own self-sufficiency was critical. You can't trust anybody, but you can trust yourself, and that was put into me. And society telling you have to do the right thing. You have to do for your family. Really, in the end, government, family, it's imposed upon you rather than you actually needing it or feeling it.
Okay, so let's go way back. Did
Sure.
not humans start gathering together because of safety? So they would gather together because it's safer when all four of us are together than it is just for me to run around with my loincloth on. Do you follow me? So it's like, sorry,
Yeah, chimpanzees, monkeys. It's all they don't.
safety in numbers. So
Right.
that would that be
Yeah.
innately safer in unity, coming together and being around one another, and then being orderly in a sense, because it keeps kind of the harmony within the group. Because when you have somebody acting out, I think like in monkey tribes or monkey whatever groups are, it's not a clouder of cats because well, but doesn't some groups of monkeys actually push certain monkeys away if the monkeys are not. What's like some animals systems will get rid of anything that's handicapped or that's been injured or is dying, things like that. So the greater good, in a sense, is not affected. I'm not really
Yeah,
trying to apply that animal
Yeah,
SMS,
I know.
but I just think it's innately. I have to agree with Karen that I think it's innately.
see, that is an interesting thing, because I know about this. Chimpanzees are aggressive. They are very aggressive beings, and their unity is about the stronger survive. While the bonobos, they're a society built on sex, about you know unity and love and appreciating each other. But when there's an overly aggressive male, the females will get together and beat the living crap out of him till he's almost dead.
Mm.
That's justice.
And bonobos are a peaceful society.
Maybe we could take a lesson. What?
But that's what happens when there's an overly aggressive male, he's taken down. But bonobos are run by females, while chimpanzees are run by males, for the most
Oh,
part.
interesting.
So are
But then you
bonobos
have
a
an
more
aggressive female who starts eating the babies. There's another problem that Jane Goodall had. But again, I read much too much. Remember,
Jane Goodall ate babies? Is that what you're
no,
saying? Is
no.
that what I'm hearing?
Jane Goodall had a troop of chimpanzees, and one of them was a small group of a mother and her daughters were killing the babies from other groups and then consoling them after they killed their baby. That's what chimpanzees are doing. Until one
wow.
day, those mothers and daughters were removed from society. Um, Unfortunately, when you eat the brains of other of your same species, you get a disease, and they basically nature takes care of you.
Called Kuru, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, I read too much, so I know too much about this. But again, I love bonobos, and then I read that the scientists were so s- confused by the bonobos being aggressive until someone studied and go, oh, they're being aggressive because there was a member of the society who was hurting another female, one female. Another female said, not in our home, and they beat him to almost death. They didn't kill him, but he came close, and that's and they were so confused by the aggressive, and it happened more than once when. But again, us humans, we get to study things, we watch, as society builds, and that might be how humans developed, where the aggressive took over, that we're more like
Hmm.
chimpanzees, bonobos, and that's a sad thing. And maybe other societies were like bonobos, but we kind of eliminated them because us chimpanzee brains are just too aggressive.
So speaking of brains, this is what made me think of this question because um, if anybody has ever seen what's her name, Jill Bolte Taylor. So she had a stroke, and after her stroke, or during her stroke, and directly after, she realized because half of her brain didn't work, and she was a neuroscientist as well, so she knew what was going on. But the right hemisphere of our brain is our connection to each other, where we can barely tell where we end and the next person begins. And the left hemisphere of the brain is the one that is separate, that separates us from everybody else and us from our world. So we're capable of both. And it's fascinating that we really choose separation. I don't want to say more, but it seems like the majority of people these days would rather be, would focus on their individuality instead of their sameness. And it's a really
Yeah.
fascinating video for anyone who is interested in like how the brain works. She is phenomenal, and she talks about everything she experienced as she went through her stroke while it was happening and in her recovery period. And she says, all we have to do is step into the right side of our brain and our right hemisphere and feel that connection and that love for everybody. And society would change overnight if they all experienced that.
Wow.
So while I get the whole um, loving everyone, and that's good, I think that like you don't want to de-emphasize the need for self-love because that's kind of
Oh,
like
no.
where we
Yeah,
are.
for sure.
Yeah, like you want to love your uniqueness and your individuality, and like I think that should be first because then we're going back to what we're trying to get out of.
I think, though, that if we were truly living from the right side of our brain, that would be innate. That would be just part and parcel. We're all one. It's not saying that we're loving somebody else more. We're loving all of us as ourselves.
But then you're
Because you're connected. I am
I
you, and you are me, and we are the trees, and we're all literally one.
we are. Yep, I get that. I get that. I don't know. Part of that kind of just like struck a chord a little bit though. Like
Yeah,
there's a difference between like
I
unity
totally,
and hive mentality.
I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I got
Yeah.
okay. What's our chat saying? Our chat's so smart. What do they got? They got names, they got studies, they got all kinds of stuff going on here. 'Cause I can get lost in that chat.
Richard.
Let's see here. I think we've covered a lot of the questions that I've got here.
I know, we didn't even get controversial.
Oh, so maybe the
Oh,
question isn't whether we need authority, but whether we trust ourselves and humanity and others without it.
I don't think it's more about do we trust others, because if you can't trust yourself, what are you?
Well,
But
ourselves as in all of us kind of thing.
oh,
I just broke it down a little bit.
ourselves is a
Or humanity. So do we trust humanity
no,
without an authoritative figure? You don't.
unless because the thing is, once the group gets so big, corruption. Because but when you get to groups, tend to when you get to a big enough group, someone on top tends to become corrupted, and it happens so often that the greatest person in the world, once they get so much power, power
Well, that's why you
corrupts
don't
absolutely.
give the power to the people who want it. You give the power to the people who don't want it.
That's Plato, the the philosopher kings, because they had no money. The idea with Plato was say the rulers have no money, but they're philosophers, so they don't really need it, and that's what the idea. And it's a beautiful story. But again, it's a fantasy, and he knew that, but he still wrote it. He wrote it because it's the ideal.
And some people think that when the blockchain gets fully established and utilized and all of these currencies go away, all these fiat currencies that are based basically on paper, on printers, that a lot of things are going to fall by the wayside because it will be incorruptible because you can't do it. You won't be able to corrupt anything on the ledger side of it. So that's going to change a lot of things. And you will also find maybe Lucky's right, saying that or to your point, you assign people, make people be president or make them be a representative as their civic duty. And so that way they go in and fill the seat and vote on stuff and okay, has it been voted on, and then they did it all in their home office or whatever. I mean, it met in the virtual legislature or whatever, the rotunda of wherever. And I think a lot of it needs to be de-emphasized too, because these people get in power and then I'm going to put pictures of myself all over the state buildings and pictures of myself in all the federal buildings. And it's just like, take all the ego out of it too. Take the ego out of it, make it a civic duty. So, hey, regardless, great topic for tonight.
It
Trista.
was.
One other thing that I just want to talk about, because I think about this. We struggle with like kids being bullied, and especially with like online now. But where are we teaching not to bully other than saying don't bully? Everything that we do, we bully each other constantly. The government bullies the people. In a work situation, owners and management bully the employees, and then the employees go home and bully their families. And it's like it's all down the chain of command. And we really like hierarchy seems to be a natural state. We end up forming these hierarchies, at least currently, whether we like it or not. So how do we do that in a healthy way so that we don't have the shit just rolling downhill?
I think you can start at the bottom and you start individually with the way you handle your business and then the way your family handles their business and then the way that, you work within the community and you go the opposite way.
You start with the
And
children.
support the businesses who aren't doing that.
Well,
Right.
start with the children
Yeah.
because we're all children, and if you can get the children not to bully and figure out where the bullies come from, children, you can figure out why adults are bullying because they're just the
Right,
same
but
people.
but children are bullying because they see adults doing it. That's my problem.
Or they've been
It's
bullied
all over the
themselves.
place. Well, yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, we blame the kids for bullying each other, but they're just copying what people do. And that's what bugs the crap out of me. It's like we expect them to do differently than what we're doing and then what we're showing them, and that's not the way it works. We have
I
to
think
model better behavior if we want better behavior instilled in them. And we don't. But it's so systemic that it's like, what do you do? So it's not really an answerable question, but
No,
throwing it out
it
there
is.
anyway.
But you've got to the child. See, the thing is, you're thinking the small side. I think we're all children inside. And you see, why is that person bullying? Because they're a child. They're just acting out. So, you're right. Stop it. We have to, as a group, as a society, say, stop it. And it's all just a game. We're all playing a game.
I think it
And as
starts
long
in
as
an individual. Sorry, I thought you were done.
It always starts individual. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, this is good.
I cut Lucky off. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's interesting. I had read statistics, and I think this was still when I was in university, about how, and I mean, this is probably somewhat old information, just the way it was delivered, but like how, you know, men go to work and they're mistreated by their employers, and then they go home and they mistreat their wife, and their wife mistreats the kids, and the kids mistreat oh, Victor's gone, and the kids mistreat the animals. Like it's like when you have your power taken away by whoever's on the top, then you try to get that power from somebody else below you,
Or you get
and
in
that's a
trouble.
problem.
You get in trouble. You could tell if your boss too much. When you get, that causes a lot of trouble. But I don't care. That's the
But yeah,
problem. There's the point where you just don't and say. I guess that's the point. We have to just stand up and for us. That's it. The people who learn to stand up. It goes back to self-love. If you learn to stand up for yourself, you don't take the bullying from the boss. And that's why it doesn't go downhill. You stop it at the source. And that's where you teach people to not take it and say, okay.
and it's got to be
Also the company's going to support that kind of activity.
yeah, and it's got to be a collective effort by people to not support people who are like that, and that's where the trick is, unfortunately.
But that also takes a person who riles the troops against their own boss, and again, they get in trouble for that. But again, that's not my problem. But yeah, there's a point where someone stands up to the boss, and the other ones see that effort, and they can either let them hang for themselves, or I agree, and then and they support them. But again, that takes self-worth. That takes a group of people who believe in themselves to stand up to a megalomaniac.
And something that's interesting too, like one of my favorite supplement companies, Purica, the owner, he talks about, how does he say it? Coopetition. So cooperation and competition just melded together in a really beautiful way. And he talks about how he tries to do that because he'll share information with competing companies, kind of thing. We have to cooperate while we're competing for that, to maintain that healthy market, and especially like in the supplement industry, because the government is a little nuts there, but where they do have to work together to keep the laws better and not as restrictive as far as our choices go and stuff like that. So there is a lot of that, or there has to be a lot of that in that industry. But it's interesting, like we need more emphasis on cooperating. And there's like cooperative games for kids now. I remember I bought my nieces and nephews a cooperative game. I don't know if they ever played it, but I think there's ways to kind of make subtle changes. It's just there's so many people that need to undergo that shift. Anyway, I think that's all I've got, or at least that's most of it. And we're a little over. Sorry, it's a Boyo weekend. I apologize, Victor.
That's all right. And also a programming note: we will be starting at 11:11 going forward, starting next Sunday. And who is the topic person for next Sunday?
Is it Rabbit Hole Radio next Sunday because of
Rabbit
Easter?
Hole Radio, so I guess I'll hold
right.
Rabbit Hole Radio.
There you
And
go.
you want to remind everyone what rabbit hole radio entails?
I don't have a clue.
Yeah, you do. We use our spinner. We all put 3 questions.
We come through 3 questions and we spin it, and we put together 3 questions, and then we spin the thing, and then basically whatever number it comes on, we'll ask that question, and we go forward from there. And it's kind of a random thing. Oh,
Right.
that's a good point. If anyone in watching this now and in the future, it might be good to put in the comments later. If you're watching this, put it in the comments later. Any questions that you think might be relevant, just random stuff about
The rabbit hole.
Fun things
yeah,
to address.
yeah. What's a
Yeah, that's
random one
fun.
that we asked before? What was a question we asked before? I don't have no idea what I asked. So,
I don't either.
if you could be a tree,
Yeah,
what
me
kind of tree
neither.
would you be? That kind of a question. Basically, it's just so random.
They're still in our Discord, actually. They're
Oh,
still
good.
posted in our Discord.
Oh, so we can
Oh
scroll up.
wow!
Okay.
Like our questions that we had last time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're still in there. So we may have to revisit some of them if they're time worthy. If they
That's a good idea.
if the question had changed, because what was it 6 months ago when we did that? 4 months ago?
Probably.
No, like 6 months already.
Yeah.
It was the fall, and now it's the spring. So
Yeah, I do, because it's Easter Easter Sunday, and what's the biggest thing about Easter is rabbits. So why not? Nothing to do
yeah.
with Jesus. It's about rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
Cadbury
The
eggs.
star said so.
Yep.
Hey, Alex, good to see you, man. Well, thank you so much, Trista.
I
Thank
think
you.
the
This
moral
was
of the
good.
story is just like, who was it that said about the bees? You've got to make the change internally first and be the change that we want to see and stand in our light. And that's how we create subtle change.
Always. It
Always.
starts with you.
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, chat. And
Thank you, guys.
thanks, Victor and Millie and Lucky.
Thank you, Trista.
And yeah, look forward to next week.
All
Have
right,
a great
namaste,
week.
Been fun.
Bye.
Love
Love you
you all.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.